Hello. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? All right. Just getting my little notes out here. Awesome. All right. So, welcome to the stream. I've just been thinking about doing this for a while, so I thought what I would do is rather than more gameplay footage, which we got tons of that already, but Uh, why not just do a discussion slash debate on, well, not really a debate because nobody else can talk but me, but a discussion on general things that I've seen people, you know, discuss in the past and what they would like to see. Because everybody's saying that sometimes Dead by Daylight is getting kind of, stagnant and boring and whatever. So it'd be kind of fun to see what kind of things we can do to, spice the game up a bit, right? So I wrote down and been taking notes for quite a while about all the different things that I would personally like to see. I mostly play as killer, but at the same time, I do play survivor with my friends pretty much all the time. So I'm trying to look at things from a completely, unbiased standpoint. Like, oh, I'm trying not to come up with things that are too maybe more against a killer, maybe. So then the killers are like, oh, well, you're, obviously a survivor, You're just trying to get the survivors an easier game and blah, blah, blah. So basically, everything is coming unbiased as I can make it sound, and I've tried to come up with different scenarios and suggestions that improve the gameplay for both sides of the coin. So killers have a better game, survivors have a better game. So, yeah, we'll discuss all that stuff. If you're tuning in and you're unfamiliar with me, well, I'm Bot Whisperer. I play a lot of Dead by Daylight amongst other games, and I prefer bot play offline as opposed to online play just because it's fun to mess around with the bots and see what the computer can do. Not to say that I don't play online matches. My several last streams, one of my longest, actually almost 7 hours, was nothing but online matches as far as I remember. So yeah, I do definitely play online with other people, not just the bots. So you don't have to worry about it being boring. Aside from that, I do play other games as well. I've done streams for Resident Evil. I've done streams for Ark Survival Evolved. And I'm going to look at doing some other games in the near future here. I've got The Quarry, which I still have to get to. I have to finish up Callisto Protocol, which I've been meaning to do for quite some time, but I still haven't gotten around to it. But I will get to it and finish it up because I'm pretty sure I'm almost done. But other than all that stuff, let's get to the topic at hand. So, Dead by Daylight changes that I would personally make to the game or recommend. Um, a disclaimer, I guess we can cover at the start here would be if you hear something that you don't agree with, don't say no, because that's the biggest thing that I find when ever people are discussing anything nowadays. It's like, no, that's just a terrible idea. That won't work. Well, instead of, let's be more constructive, and if I come up with an idea and I throw it out there, if you don't agree, don't say no. Find a way to improve on the idea and make it work. That's all I'm saying. Let's try to be constructive. Think of a way to make it work. Because in the end, we need to have more variety added to the game. That's the biggest complaint, that it's just the same game it's been since launch, which, fair enough it is. 4 survivors, fix 5 generators, and escape, or the killer kills them all. That's really all there is to it. There's not a lot of alternate forms of gameplay. So that's what we're trying to come up with here, is some ideas and suggestions on things that we could do to just tweak the game even slightly to make it more entertaining and fun for everybody. So, remember, this is just my opinions. There's nothing ingrained in, there's nothing ingrained in stone in this. It's just my ideas. If you don't like them, that's fine. But I encourage you, don't say no. Find a way to say yes. Okay, so let me just scroll down. I have a whole bunch of notes here, little bullet point things. So the first suggestion overall that I would suggest that Dead by Daylight needs to work on is improving the fear factor for the game. When I first started playing it, there was some unnerving things that could happen. Like, for example, it was actually pretty creepy if you got thrown on a meat hook the first time and your character is screaming, and it's like, wow, that was kind of disturbing. But at the same time, you kind of adjusted to that really quickly because, you play the game so often, you get thrown on a lot of hooks. Or if you're the killer, you throw a lot of people on hooks. So eventually you just sort of become desensitized to all of that, and it just doesn't really, bother you so much anymore. Another thing was that I would use as an example was the Huntress. Now, when the Huntress first showed up, she was the second killer I ever faced in the game. So I played my first match. Don't remember. I think it was actually ironically the Trapper, and then my very next match was the Huntress. And being completely new. Remember, this is the first day I've ever played the game, and just sort of, okay, you start walking out through the bushes trying to find a generator to fix, and then you start hearing this like really nice, calm singing, and it's like, what the hell is that? And it was really creepy. And then, of course, around the corner comes this woman holding an axe, wearing this bloody bear skull, and throwing hatchets. And it was like, my God. And the whole time she's doing this, she's singing this sweet and innocent little lullaby. And it was really unnerving and disturbing. And that was always something that I really thought was cool because I was never really scared going up against any of the killers, Freddy or whatever. But anytime the Huntress, I was in a match and you started hearing that singing in the distance, it was like, oh God, it's the Huntress. And it was really funny because that was sort of the only thing that was really creepy and disturbing about the game. So one of the biggest things I would say the game needs to work on is a higher fear factor. There's a rogues gallery in this game of some of the biggest horror icons in the world as far as motion pictures and games and things go. So there's no reason not to make this game a lot more scary. It has the potential to be. You would just have to go about it. And as we talk more about the other topics that we're going to cover, this will come back into play into how we can raise the fear factor, because several of the things we'll discuss will also involve how do we boost the fear factor. So that's something else that we will definitely be coming into play. So don't think here. 1 second, I just gotta adjust this thing. It's being stupid again. There we go. Oh, you dick. Of course. Okay, so higher fear factor. Now, I figure, we can get into game changes and things, but I figured a nice thing to discuss and just sort of get out of the way right at the beginning would maybe be some new killers that we could discuss. Everybody's got their own ideas. Oh, it'd be really cool if we had this kind of killer and this kind of killer, and oh, we need this movie killer in the game as well. And we'll get to the movie killers and everything as well. But for right now, I'm just going to go with a few original idea killers that I would think would be really cool to see in the game. So the first one to start with would be the doppelganger. And a doppelganger, if you're familiar with your, demonic lore and what have you, is a shape-shifting, very thin and frail-looking humanoid being that can imitate a person, and it tries to kill them and take their place. And so what would happen is, in the game, the way this would work is the doppelganger looks like that. They look like this thin, ugly monster, but they can actually shapeshift to look like any player that's in the game. So, there's 4 survivors. They can make themselves look like any one of them. And then what they would do is basically use that to get close to a person and whack them, take them out, right? I mean, that is the end game for the killer, and what better way to do it than to look like a survivor? But it's not enough to just look like a survivor. There has to be something that the killer could do, right? On top of that. So what I would do is I would give the doppelganger the ability to work on generators. And you might say, well, that's helping the survivors. Well, no, because what happens is the doppelganger gets onto a generator and is going through the exact same motions that a regular survivor would do. So another survivor comes along, sees this another person working on the generator, and just says, oh, I'm going to go help them work on the generator. They come running up because the generator is being worked on. But what's actually happening is the doppelganger is giving the appearance of working on it, and maybe the little thing is puttering and like it is being repaired, because remember, you got to be able to fool the survivors into thinking you're actually helping. But what's actually happening is the doppelganger is sabotaging it. So what'll happen is when the survivors come to work on it, maybe they get like a barrage of really impossible to hit skill checks that just blows the generator and, erases like a huge percentage of any progress that's on it when, the survivor's working on it, right? In the same vein, in the end, the doppelganger just needed to get close to the person anyway. And if the person was trusting enough to come over and get on the generator, I mean, the doppelganger doesn't really need to do anything else at that point but stand up and start attacking them, right? So there's that. But that's not enough, because you want to give the survivors something that they can use to deal with the doppelganger, and that's where flashlights would come in. And what would happen is if your character finds a flashlight in a thing, or you just start the match with a flashlight, which can obviously happen as well, I would have it if you shine the light on the doppelganger. While the doppelganger is in the light, you actually see the form. So it could break, like if you panning the flashlight left and right, and wherever the light beam crosses the body of the doppelganger, you see the real form underneath. And it doesn't necessarily revert them back to their form, but it reveals them. So if you turn the flashlight off, they look like the survivor again. And then they just come right at you, right? Because, I mean, they're obviously revealed, so they're going to attack you. But yeah, that would just be, I think it would be really creepy, because you'd have like a survivor turn a flashlight on their friend and suddenly it's not their friend anymore. And they're like, holy crap. And then they get attacked. Again, builds into the fear factor. As I said, different things are going to come back to the fear factor. And that would be a great way to do it. You're working on a gen and two other people come and they're working on the gen too, and then the fourth person who you're imitating comes up with the flashlight and shines it on them, and then they realize that right beside them is the doppelganger working on the generator with them. They're going to freak out, right? They're going to jump off. They'll probably blow the gen, some of the progress, the doppelganger go on a rampage. All kinds of crazy stuff could happen with this character, and that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's my first suggestion and some of the ideas. Basically a doppelganger, an imposter. Can't go wrong with that. My next one was something I was kind of pondering with, not as much as I did the doppelganger, but this was kind of something I thought would be an interesting idea. What about an event killer? And an event would be something like, the Christmas event just happened, the Bone Chill event. Well, what if during the Bone Chill event there was one killer that made its appearance? And because it's winter themed, why not something like the Wendigo, which is an ice spirit, right? A cannibalistic ice spirit. So you could have him for sale only during the winter Bone Chill event at Christmas time, because, everything gets the wintry backdrop, and the Wendigo runs on his rampage for that. But then when it's over, the Wendigo is gone. And here's the thing. Maybe it's not even a player character. Maybe they work out some, because right now they're currently working on AI for the bots, right? You can do a custom match and you can play as any killer you want as long as you own them, and you can go up against any bot characters, 4 bot characters, right? And they're currently working on shifting it around. So if you want to play a custom match by yourself as the survivor with 3 other survivors and a bot killer, that is something they're working on right now. So if they're already working on bot AI killers, why couldn't they do an event killer who only shows up in rotation during the winter event? So this is like I said, the Wendigo is an ice spirit. It would be the Bone Chill event, which is the name for the Christmas event. So why not have it where it's like the Bone Chill event starts Now the Wendigo is in rotation and it's a bot killer. So you don't even know. You can't even be like, oh, well, I can't wait to get this. And, it's so stupid. We can only use the killer one time of year. Well, this would be a killer that's you can't play as, but the computer gets to use it against you and only during this event. That would be a way of adding a new twist on the event, because it's like, well, you're probably still going to get matched against human players playing as the regular killers, but there's still this slightly higher chance you might go up against this one AI, killer who's really crazy deadly, and he's fortunately only going to be around for the holiday season. But again, that's just an idea. I think people would be disappointed they couldn't play as the killer, which is why I said, they could buy it. But this is just one of those crazy ideas that I'm kind of throwing around there that, could be interesting to try it out. And if it doesn't work, sell the killer on the storefront and everybody can play him, and that's the end of it. Either way, it's a no-win situation, right? Or sorry, it's a win-win situation, I should say. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing. What would his powers be? Well, Wendigos are very fast. They're very good at stealth, so he would probably be a stealth killer. He would blend in with a lot of environments because, he's an ice spirit. If he was on the Ormond map, for example, that's a snow hill with, that's the only one that's snowy. He would blend in completely with the backgrounds in there, what have you. I mean, those are just some random ideas. Yeah, that'd be a fun one. All right. Now, those were my ideas just for original, quote, original killers. A Wendigo isn't exactly an original thought because it's, an actual from the lore of, Northern Canada. But these are the licensed killers now we'll talk about, because that's the ones that everybody's really going to care about. So these are killers from movies or books or games or whatever that aren't in the game yet but are still really popular, and it's kind of like, why aren't they in the game yet? So we'll look at that right now. So first on the list, and these are all just in random order because I didn't care to put them in any specific order that I like them in. It's just, let's throw them all in there and we'll discuss them. So first up, we have the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. Now, if you haven't seen the Jeepers Creepers movie, well, he was like this cannibalistic demon monster thing that ate people's body parts and then grew those body parts onto himself so that he could have a human form and whatever. It was actually kind of a stupid movie, to be perfectly honest. But he would actually fit very well into Dead by Daylight. He did have enough about him that was unique and entertaining as a creature killer type thing in a movie that he would lend himself very well to this. He could do projectile attacks because he made bone throwing stars and things out of people's bones, and he was throwing them to disable people's vehicles and stuff, so you could do stuff like that. There's a lot they could do with the Creeper. So long story short, I mean, put the Creeper in, because why the heck not? It'd be pretty cool to see him in there. I would probably give him a try, even if I don't particularly care about him all that much. But yeah, it'd be fun. Next up, we have Chucky from Child's Play. Obviously, people, are familiar with Chucky. He's a doll that was possessed by the spirit of the serial killer, and he goes around killing people. Pretty straightforward. Gotta love 80s horror, right? So this one would actually be a very well off IP to have in the Dead by Daylight, because there's multiple movies made. And this game is full of characters and alternative skins for the characters. So there's a lot of Child's Play movies, and you could dress Chucky up with a lot of outfits. You could also include Tiffany from Bride of Chucky, which was the female, bride of Chucky, literally. And that could be an alternate skin. I mean, multiple characters do that. We have Leon from Resident Evil, and his alternative skin is like Chris Redfield or Carlos, right? And then you've got even the Legion killers. There's 4 different killers, right? So 2 are male, 2 are female. So you could do that just as easily with Chucky. You could have Tiffany or you could have Chucky, and everybody wins. And there's a lot of fun you could have with Chucky because he's smaller. He's not this human size. He's just a doll. He's slightly big for a doll. I mean, he's probably like, I don't know, maybe 2 feet tall. But there already is, like with the twins, Victor runs around on the map. He's the Siamese twin that pops out and runs around on the map screeching. That thing, I mean, Chucky would be taller than him even. And why not use it? I mean, it would be cool. He could hide better than the tall killers because he's small. He'd be able to, hide in taller grass a lot easier. He wouldn't necessarily be able to see as well in the tall grass, but that's the slight downside of playing as him. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities and things you could do with Chucky. That I think would be really cool. And it would be really funny to see him, how people would say, well, how would he throw a survivor over his shoulder to like carry them off to the hook? Who says he has to throw them over the shoulder? He could knock them down, grab them by the foot, and drag them over to a hook and throw them on. And you got to admit, it'd be kind of funny to see this little doll. You walk around the corner by a hook, and then you see this doll grab someone by the leg and toss them over and throw them on like a sack of potatoes up on a meat hook. That'd be pretty funny. So yeah, I mean, you could do it, and yeah, behavior would have to reanimate new drags for everybody because every character would have to have a drag animation. But the thing to remember about that is that's not your problem or mine. That would be behavior's problem. So in the end, what does it matter? It's all about adding variety to the game, right? Why does everything have to be an over-the-shoulder carry? Why does everything have to be a certain way? Just have it, be smaller. And because Chucky is smaller, think of it this way. This is something I actually just thought about here in the moment. What about rather than kicking pallets, he can just crawl under them because he's tiny. So next time you slam a pallet on him, he just walks right under it and keeps coming after you. I mean, maybe have a slight delay or something, but not that much because he has to duck to go under it. But at the same time, hell no, that would throw a huge wrench into the normal gameplay because most people are used to just slamming a pallet in a killer's face and running while the killer breaks it. Chucky doesn't have to break the pallet; he just runs under it, and he keeps coming after you. So that adds a whole new danger element because you're not even safe with your pallets anymore. You might slow them down just a little bit, but you better have a really good backup plan to get away from them. So those are exactly the kinds of things that, a variety of characters of varying sizes could add to the game. That would be a really cool one, actually. And I think a lot of killers would appreciate not having to deal with pallets quite as much. On a similar vein, and this is going to tie into Chucky, there's a new movie out called Megan, and it's about an animatronic girl who's like, looks like she's, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old maybe, and she goes crazy, and it's basically Child's Play but an up-to-date version, whereas opposed to Chucky being like I said, the serial killer who voodoo cursed his soul into a doll as he was dying. This is just a animatronic doll that's supposed to be a companion for a little girl that goes crazy and starts trying to kill everyone. So it's kind of Child Play meets Terminator. So basically, it would basically be, like Chucky, but she'd be bigger because she was, she looked like a regular human girl. Like you could tell looking at her face, she wasn't real. But for the most part, she was a very realistic looking thing. And I haven't seen the movie yet, but I got to admit, it does look actually pretty interesting. So I do want to see it, probably pick it up when it comes out on DVD or something. But as it stands now, Megan from Megan would be a really cool killer because, as you can see in the movie, she's really strong. I mean, she grabs this kid's ear and rips it off and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff you could do with her in the game. And because she's a killer doll, basically, and Chucky is, why not do a DLC pack, a killer doll collection that has both of them in it? And this would be the first time we had a DLC pack with 2 killers in it, right? Because normally it's a killer and a survivor, a killer and 2 survivors, or whatever. But this would be the first time that there was 2 killers in a DLC pack at once, and that would be kind of cool because that's never really happened before. But yeah. Again, same ideas as Chucky. She's smaller, and as you see in the one preview, when she's chasing them, she gets down on all fours like a dog, and she's kind of scurrying after them. So again, she could scurry under the pallets or over them or who knows what. But yeah, so there's that. Next, we could. What about Leprechaun from the movie Leprechaun? So I mean, I was never a big fan of the Leprechaun. I only ever watched the first one, and because that was enough, and it was kind of silly. But at the same time, why not add something silly to the game? I mean, it couldn't hurt to have something interesting and new. So, if it sounds crazy to you, well, imagine this. Imagine a pogo sticking Irish accented killer boinging on a pogo stick chasing after you trying to kill you. I mean, that'd be pretty crazy. I mean, you'd be running away and all you hear is the doing, doing, doing as he's bouncing on his pogo stick coming after you. That'd be goofy and kind of scary at the same time. And given that he was a leprechaun and he had all kinds of magical powers and stuff, I mean, think of what that could do with the game as far as attacks and perks and everything else goes. There's a lot you could do. So, yeah, have some fun, right? uh, yeah, so that's Leprechaun. Oh, also, and a survivor that would go with her, if you're unfamiliar with the Leprechaun movies, Jennifer Aniston from Friends. I mean, come on, you probably know who Jennifer Aniston is. She was like 16 years old, and in this movie, she's the survivor. So you get like a young Jennifer Aniston survivor in the game. That'd be kind of cool, right? Most people would like that. Next up on the docket, Warlock from the movie Warlock. Now, this one's probably a little less familiar with most people, but it was actually, I mean, I don't want to say it was like a popular one. Now you'd probably call it a cult classic type thing. But when that came out, I remember it being up, the poster being up in a lot of different places. Basically, Warlock was a movie about, it started in the 1600s, and there's this evil warlock trying to destroy the world, and he gets banished or whatever. It was a long time ago. But he gets banished to like the future, which was the 1980s, because that's when the movie came out. And yeah, so they have to try and stop him from destroying the world. So, I mean, he's basically an evil demon. He uses magic. He could fly. If you ever watch the movie, the special effects have not aged well. They look terrible now. But it was a pretty popular thing, and the guy who Julian Sands, who played the Warlock, got a lot of like people just were like, yeah, you did a really good job in the movie for what you had to go with. So yeah, he would have been an interesting killer. And the few people that I've ever mentioned that to as a killer who think about it and they're like, oh yeah, him, I forgot about him. He's the sort of thing you forget, but once you remember, you're like, yeah, that's actually kind of cool. So Warlock, that'd be interesting. Next would be Tallman from Phantasm. And Phantasm is probably even more obscure than Warlock, but it was definitely a popular one. He had actually an orb that had spikes and drills and shit that came out of it that he floated around and skewered people in the heads with it and stuff. So this would be a really interesting killer because he also created zombies, I think, because he was a mortician or some freaking thing, and so he was turning dead bodies into zombies in the mortuary or something. So there was that. But also just imagine this killer who can launch this projectile around to chase you around the map with it and, take you out with it. Kind of like the twins in Victor in a similar sense, because Victor runs around and the twin is, Charlotte is stuck waiting until you finish using Victor or whatever. It would be something similar to that, I suppose, in the long run. But like I said, he also created zombies and shit. So there's lots of there's room for new ideas that what you could do with the character and where you would take it. So that's that one in a nutshell. Why are these so separated? Oh, here's one. Somebody recommended this one to me when I was talking to them about it, and I hadn't thought about it myself because whatever, but Slender Man from Slender Man, the game, and now the movie, and whatever else. So he's tall and he's thin, and he could really easily jump scare survivors. He causes hallucinations, amongst other things. So, I fixed my camera a bit there. But yeah, he can cause hallucinations. So you could have a lot of fun with things like that. I mean, you could imagine working on a generator or something, and maybe you missed a skill check and the generator explodes in your face, and then maybe he pops out of the generator at that moment just to like scream like and grab you or something and make you think he's got you. That's exactly what Slenderman was about, was jump scares. So his gameplay would probably be very similar to that, where you would want to have a lot of jump scares, a lot of fear based things going on, as well as some attacks and stuff. Yeah, there's really not a lot of that. And again, to tie into the original point I was trying to make, you want to bring fear into the game somehow. So you want to try to bring in a lot of characters who are based around inspiring fear. And Slenderman, whether that was a thing for you or not, it certainly wasn't for me. But yeah, he does have the makings of a killer who would fit in this roster of killers. And he would fit in very well, and he could do a lot. So yeah, why not go with him? He'd certainly be a lot cheaper, I would think, for to buy the rights to than a lot of the stuff they already have. I would like to think probably Freddy Krueger is probably one of the most expensive uh, rights that they would have had to have bought. So, have some water. Have a hydration. All right. Next up, we have Matilda Dixon from Darkness Falls. So if you're unfamiliar with Darkness Falls, it is a movie about the Tooth Fairy. And basically, if you wake up and you saw the Tooth Fairy, which was her, she'd kill you for seeing her, because she was horribly burned in this accident, not an accident, because the townsfolk thought she was evil and whatever, so they burned her up, and she's all deformed and ugly, and so she wears this clay mask or whatever over her face to hide her face, and she gathers the teeth from people who lose their teeth, and if you take a peek at her, then she will kill you for seeing her, because she doesn't want to be seen. So the movie was actually pretty good. I liked it when it came out. That was like 2003, I think. It was a good movie. I liked it, and it was actually pretty scary. Like the opening scene when the little boy sees the Tooth Fairy, and he's running to hide, and his mom comes and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, it's all fine," or whatever. But if you're in the light, she can't touch you. But if you're in darkness, she can get you. So that was the thing. So he's in the hallway and the lights are on, so he's fine. And he's in the bathroom and the mom's in the hallway, but then the light in the hallway goes off. She's like, because I think she's like, "Oh, see, you don't have anything to be scared of." So she turns off the light, and then she just gets grabbed because she sees the Tooth Fairy there trying to take the boy or whatever. So she gets grabbed and taken away, and it had this really crazy shot right after that where he's in he's framed in the bathroom door, and he's kind of scared to come out, and then outside in the hall everything is dark, and the camera kind of pans up, and she's sitting upside down on the roof, and her gown is kind of flowing out, and she's just waiting for him to come out. And it was actually a really impressive cinematic sort of moment. So yeah, she's big. She has a lot of potential to be a really scary killer too. She was definitely stronger in the dark. Light, she couldn't do anything in the light, but if you got in the dark, she could just kill you instantly. So my recommendation to her would be, if she's in dark areas, and there's plenty of dark areas in Dead by Daylight, she's stronger. Maybe she's faster moving, etc. Things like that, and because whenever somebody saw her, she became obsessed with killing that person. Have it in the game that if the obsession, because there's always one out of the four survivors who are the killer's obsession. So in this case, because she kills the obsessions in the dark, if one of the survivor who is the obsession ends up in the dark and she finds them there, she can just kill them. And that might sound very extreme for gameplay, that the killer can just outright kill somebody, but I would remind you that people often tell me, because I hate Michael Myers in Dead by Daylight, because he can look at you, walk up to you, and kill you instantly, and I think that's ridiculous, but most people say, well, that's the game mechanic for him. Well, what the hell's the difference between that and this? The only difference is if you get into a light place, she can't kill you anymore. Mike Myers can still kill you no matter where you are. So she's the lesser of two evils. So there's that to consider. There's a bird outside making noise. I was like, what the hell's that noise? But yeah, so that's the thing. Matilda Dixon, Darkness Falls, Tooth Fairy. And I would also change it. Maybe if you needed to be a little more specific, maybe if she gets the obsession in the basement, because the basement should be dark, she can only moor them in the basement without having to hook them or anything like that. You just there's it's open to interpretation. However you want to balance it out. There's a lot you could do. So that's that. I would also say this gives you opportunities to bring the flashlight into play a lot more, because you could have it where if you hit her with the flashlight, and this is what happened in the movie too, you hit her with the flashlight and she gets knocked away. So you could have that as a mechanic as well. You hit her with the flashlight and she gets shoved away. She can't touch you, or maybe she can't kill the obsession. Things like that. But the more light there was, the worse it was for her. Also, something else you could consider is having the the map. Because whenever you play certain killers, like if you play against Freddy, for example, the map will have the little radios and everything strewn about it to part of the game mechanic to wake yourself up from the dream. Like the pig, if you're playing against the pig, she has the traps, boxes everywhere, so you can get the trap off yourself. So this would be a similar thing in that sense, where in the Tooth Fairies map, maybe when you're fixing the generators, you bring light to the map. So every time you pop a generator, there's lights on the generator that light up and everything, but maybe these generators are connected to various lights that are set up in that specific area. So when you light up the generator, whoosh, suddenly this one area of the map has a lot of light into it, and then her powers are a lot weaker in that area. Because, after all, she can kill you if she gets you alone in the dark and you're the obsession. So there's that. That would be a way to counter it and just sort of be like, well, we popped the generator, or she's going to get me. I just got to get into the area where the light is, and then she can't mori me. So, there's that, right? That's sort of like the trade-off, right? Which I think is better and would be better than Myers, in the sense that Myers just has to stare at you, build up his evil within, and then he can just mori indefinitely depending on his perks and add-ons. But regardless, he can still kill indefinitely in certain circumstances, and given these circumstances, she has the potential to, but she can't always do it. And I think that's a fair trade-off for her being able to mori somebody with very little effort. So there's that. And as you fill more gens, then eventually the whole map is really bright and she has a lot less power. I would also have it because, as in the movie, when you see her or reveal her, that she comes after you too, right? So you could have it in the game that if you flashlight save her, or you blind her with the flashlight, because in the movie, spoiler alert for a 20. Oh no, God, the movie's older than that now. Yikes. That's an old movie. So, yeah, it's like 20 years old now? Wow. Well, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie. In the end, they turn on the lights and it burns off her mask and her, rags and everything to reveal who she really is. And so you could have it as an in-game mechanic. If you flashlight blind her, you can actually scorch her appearance and you become the obsession, because there's only one obsession at a time, right? Well, if you get the flashlight saved, then use now the obsession because you saw her face, so she would want to kill you too. It's not that she wouldn't still want to kill the original person, but, in the end, she's trying to kill everybody. But this would be a way to transfer the obsession mechanic to somebody else, right? And that could put them in even more danger than they were in before, because they're the ones who tried to reveal her, right? Who did reveal her. So that would also up the ante a bit because you're just trying to save your friend, but now you're the one that she's going to try to kill in the darkness, right? So there's all kinds of things that you can do to shift power and what have you with everything you're doing, and that would be a really interesting character, I think. Plus she flies, kind of, she basically has limitless ability. Wherever it's dark she can go. So I mean, if you turn off all the lights in the room and you have one candle lit, I mean, if you're in the candlelight area and that's it with the candle on the floor in front of you, you're safe in that area, but she is technically everywhere it is dark around you. And yeah, so there's a lot you could do with the character, and I think she would be really cool to see in the game. All right, moving on. Terminator. Terminator from the Terminator. Well, you're probably very familiar with who the Terminator is. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's a robot sent from the future to kill someone. What more do you need to know? He's on a rampage, and he's going to try to kill all 4 survivors. He has one obsession. Maybe he gets something specialty because he's supposed to kill that target, so he gets bonuses against them. So there's, that. It's pretty straightforward. As far as the movies go, there's multiple movies, so you got multiple outfits for him. I mean, Behavior wants to make money on their costumes. We all know they have tons of costumes for all the characters and survivors. So you got a lot of possibilities with Arnold, and you can also take into account that every time you prestige a killer or a survivor, you earn the bloodied up version of them. So you can actually have the Terminator's prestige be the chunks of his face and everything getting taken off until you fully prestiged him. I think it's Prestige 5 where you fully unlock the bloody outfits for the characters. So then by the time you prestige the Terminator 5 times, that's when he's got the full on half the face missing and the glowing eye and all that stuff to show he's the robot underneath. I mean, that would be a hell of a way of prestiging. A lot of people would be looking forward to that, right? So there's that. And then you could also likewise include the T-1000 from Terminator 2, who's equally as popular for, the various reasons. I mean, he was liquid metal, and think of all the stuff you could do with that. He could also, in a similar fashion to the doppelganger, he could, in the movie, imitate people and take their form. So he could just as easily take the shape of another one of the survivors and go after them. So you don't know if they're not your friend until he gets close and he starts hacking into you. And again, yeah, there's a lot you could do with those characters. That would be really interesting. And as far as survivors go, I mean, come on, it's Terminator. You could have Sarah Connor, you could have John Connor, you could have Kyle Reese, you could have so many different survivors to go with the Terminator. And yeah, I mean, can't go wrong. Terminator is a pretty popular one, and I think a lot of people would love to see that. And even alternate skins for the Terminator. Obviously, you could have the completely fleshless, just the silver skeleton version of him, right? And that would be a really popular skin for sure. Couldn't go wrong. Nobody wants to see a gray metal skeleton coming after them with glowing red eyes in the dark. I mean, can't go wrong. All right. And then finally, we will come to Pennywise from It. So, there's nothing worse than a clown that eats children, right? Now, obviously fear, that's the entire focus of It. It is entirely about fear, and probably there's no better story that encompasses all the aspects of it than It, at least in my opinion. Yeah, the It at Pennywise becomes whatever you are most afraid of, which won't translate into a game very well because obviously everybody's going to have a different fear. But there are some universal things you could do that you could use to frighten people and scare them. All throughout the films, right? You just have to look at what Pennywise did to people to scare them. Whether it was, standing beside Bill's brother Georgie in the basement, in the water, and playing him like a puppet, So I would probably think, and these are again just basic ideas to throw in, just to say, hey, this is just to get the ideas, the juices flowing, so to speak. I would have it like if a survivor is killed, um, and maybe not even if they're killed, but uh, the other survivors can hear them talking or screaming. Like if somebody gets killed on a hook, I mean, that survivor died, obviously. Um, but maybe if you're running through that area later trying to avoid the killer yourself, or just trying to run away, maybe you go past the hook where they died or the spot they were moried on, and then you hear the screams. Again, just for no reason other than just to scare you. That's the whole point. You want everybody to be terrified, especially if they're facing Pennywise, because Pennywise, the whole point of Pennywise was that you were afraid and it knew your fears, and that's what it appeared to you as. So you would have to find ways to just scare the hell out of all the players. I was thinking something else that would be really interesting. Let's say I'm playing and I have three of my friends playing, right? And one of them, I have one of my friends actually. She's a really cool streamer herself. Her name is TickBite Jackson. So check out her channel. Free shout out. But let's say I'm playing with her, right? And she likes the Bunny Fang Min character, the outfit and all that. So imagine this. Imagine she's playing as Bunny Fang Min and I'm playing as, my character. And for whatever the reason, Pennywise kills her in the game first. And then I'm sitting there working on a generator. And then from around the corner, I see Bunny Fang Min all bloodied up, peek around the corner and look at me. That would scare the bejesus out of people. That would really freak people out. And you can say, oh, well, that wouldn't scare me. Until it happens to you, I'm pretty sure it would. We have Ghostface in the game already, right? He's one of the killers, and he can peek around the corner so he can, when he's stalking people, you use exactly the same mechanic. You just see the head of one of the players who's been killed already peek around the corner. Maybe they're all bloodied up or rotten or, whatever. And you just see them peek around the corner at you. Or if you're facing the generator, because you're always rotating the camera when you're fixing the generator, you don't, if somebody's sneaking up on you, you want to have a better idea. And maybe you spin the camera back around and then she's standing right there or something. You'd be like, whoa, shit. And then you just jump off your generator for a second because it startles you. And then you give your position away. Now Pennywise knows where you are, right? These are the sorts of things you need to do with Pennywise. And you just need to mind game people. You need to make them very afraid. You could also have a mechanic, for example, if you're in a chase and he's chasing you already, everything just sort of goes to hell. And maybe you're running and you run past a locker, because a lot of the survivors like to run by the lockers and stuff. Well, maybe you get by a locker and the locker bursts open and Pennywise comes out. It's not actually him. It's more like just a scare trap. Because like the Hag kind of does that, right? The Hag puts her little symbols on the ground. You step on it and she explodes out of the ground, but it's not really her. It could be something similar to that. You just go through the, you go past the locker and boom, the locker blows open and Pennywise comes out, even though he's actually behind you chasing you. It would be the sort of thing where you would just stop in your tracks because you'd be like, shit, he's there. But then you realize, oh my God, no, he's not. He's behind me. And now he's caught up to you and he's going to get you. These are the sorts of things that, Pennywise would be just excellent for as a killer. You could also have, like I said, if the dead partner, Bunny Fang Min, peeking around the corner wasn't scary. Well, what if she popped out of the locker at you when you were in the locker? What if you hid in the locker? And whenever you hide in a locker in the game, you see the locker and you can look around the locker and decide whether you want to come out. Imagine if you popped out of your locker, or you just slowly came out, and then again, you saw this apparition of this player who's dead right in front of you, or even just anything. It could just be a dead person in general, because Pennywise killed a lot more than the people you saw. So there's really no limits to what you could do. What if during you're fixing the generator and you mess up the generator and it explodes, and then the Huntress is standing there beside you. And you wouldn't expect the Huntress because you're facing Pennywise, like you probably already know, right? But again, it's a thing where you're like, oh crap, the Huntress! Just for that split second, it would get you. It would confuse you. It would freak you out and maybe make you re-guess, rethink your life, right? So that would be the thing, that's what Pennywise would be amazing for, and that is the sort of thing that it would be, would make him so much fun to play as. And then, of course, new maps, right? Imagine a Pennywise map where you're running around in the sewer system where he, was hiding and, killing people. You could have there's so much area that you could get into by having the sewer map. I mean, that would be crazy. And there would be infinite dark corners for you to have scary things happen to you. So there's really, the only limits when it comes to Pennywise and all that is the imagination. So that's why he would be a perfect killer. Although I don't think of all of the killers I mentioned, he's probably the least likely to ever happen, solely because I would think that Stephen King is protecting the rights to that, like, it's his child. So the likelihood of that one, but still, I think it would be awesome, and I would love to see it. We already have a clown character, but I don't care. Pennywise will be the best clown in the game. Next is actually something I forgot to put in my notes, but I was thinking about it now. The Shining, actually, would be a very interesting map. You could have, the Jack Nicholson character, insane with his axe, trying to kill people. Just a regular guy with an axe, right? But I was also thinking the better part about that would be you could have the hotel map. And the hotel would be really interesting. And what I would do with the hotel is I would actually make it haunted, like it was in the movie. So maybe you're running to the hallway where, the little boy sees the ghosts of the little girls. And maybe you just see them in there one time, just like the boy did. You run around the corner and there they are, and you're like, oh crap, And maybe you hear them say, oh, come play with us. And they vanish. And then maybe later on, when you're running through that same hallway and the killer is after you, maybe that's when you see the vision of them, killed on the floor. Like, because that also happened, right? He saw them chopped up with the axe on the ground and blood everywhere. So maybe that's when you're in danger yourself and you run through that same hallway. Now suddenly you have the vision of these two girls that got murdered there. Hey, how you doing, Nova? Welcome to the... I am good. Having a discussion on Dead by Daylight and some of the various things I would love to see changed or added. I'm just discussing right now some of the newer killers that I think would be really cool. I'm great. Recently I finished my project, so just chilling. Well, awesome. Thanks for coming and chilling with me. I was just discussing The Shining would be a really interesting Dead by Daylight map and killer. You would have the Jack Nicholson killer character, as well as the map, which would be the haunted hotel. And I thought that the map would be haunted just like it is in the movie, and actually have interactive haunting things going on. For example, you could go into the hallway where the little girls were seen, see the little girls there, and it would be like a creepy experience, but you could brush it off. But then maybe, am I new to Twitch? I am new to Twitch. I am about 3 weeks in. So I've been here a little while, but not, just a little while, but not very long. I do have a lot of other streams I've done. I've done a bunch of different games. I do stream mostly Dead by Daylight. I do definitely like my bot play, which is why I'm Bot Whisperer, because, they say Fog Whisperers. Those are like the big Dead by Daylight streamers. Well, I'm none of those, but I like the bots, so I'd rather be a Bot Whisperer than a Fog Whisperer. So that's kind of the joke. You mostly Dead by Daylight for the stream. Most part, yes. I do have other games in the go. If you check my past streams, as you can see, my YouTube is on there right now. And if you check that out, I have all my past streams on there, as well as stuff from before I was a Twitch streamer, because I didn't always stream Twitch, but I saved a lot of my Dead by Daylight matches as Killer and Survivor on there. So you can see them and just see them for what they are as matches, but you won't hear me talking. If you go to the streams, then you'll hear me talking. As well as anything, like I said, from within the last 3 weeks, you'll start hearing audio in all of my videos. So if you want to check that out, that's cool. If you want to follow me, I would always appreciate that. But yeah, so I just think it would be really cool to see the Shining map, because the big hotel would be really awesome. Thank you so much, Nova! Yeah. Your streaming is looking great. I really like. Well, thank you very much. I have. It took me. I am very technologically disinclined, so everything you're seeing on here right now took a lot of work. It took a lot of trial and error, but I'm happy with what I got going on now. It's pretty good, so I'm happy you like it. But yeah, so I think The Shining would make a really awesome map. And I think if you saw the ghost girls in the hallway at one point, but then the next time you're running through that same hallway and the killer's after you and your life is in danger, well, then you see the girls dead. I just saw that you don't have a graphical stuff. What are you referring to? Sorry? There's actually quite a few things I don't really have, like stuff that I'm working on getting. Like I know a lot of the streamers have the you have the little points and everything, so you can redeem stuff. A logo banner, yes, all that stuff. That is stuff I am currently working on. Like I said, my technological know-how is basically in the negatives, so it's going to take me a while to get that, but I have a few streamer friends on here who I've been talking to who said they're going to give me a hand because they stream in the same fashion I do, and they're going to help me learn the ropes. So then I'll get my logo banners and all those other little thingies up there. So it's just going to take a bit, but yeah. So yeah, I just think it would be cool that the map could change if you want, so I can design it for you. Oh, well, you can send me, what is it, a whisper, and we can talk about it all there, for sure. Because I do need to get some designs done up, for sure. So yeah, I just think it would be really great if in Dead by Daylight some of the maps. I do have a Discord. Yeah, my Discord should be right there. You can. I mean, I just added it before I did the stream here, but my YouTube and Discord should be on the screen there. So, yep, you can add me on there, and then we can do chat. I do have a channel specifically on the Discord for everything related to everything I'm doing here. So, yeah. Ugh, stretch. Oof. Ugh. So yeah, I just think that it would be really cool to see the maps change it up, and to have the map actually interactive in different ways, like seeing the girls as ghosts first, but then when the killer's chasing you and you run through the same hallway, you see them actually dead on the ground, like they saw in the movie. The 1 minute they were all normal and the rest they were all dead. Well, here's your Discord. Okay, you know what? I will add you right now. Pretty sure. Here we go. Invite. Invite friends. Okay. I will send you a request. Nova. The hell is it? Oh, there it is. Underscore. Hashtag 735. Your invite link. No. Alright. No. Whatever. Well. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I will look at. Yeah, I don't know why I can't. I can't do this, but yeah, I will look into this and I will send you a invite. I got your thing on the screen there, so I will get it after the fact, and I will send you said friend request on here, and we'll discuss things there. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, folks, yeah, it would be really cool to have an interactive environments, and The Shining, I think, would give you a really good, really cool idea for a map. And yeah, you could even have the elevator doors open and have a little blood pour out or something just to mess with people. I mean, anything you do. So yeah, those are the sorts of things that would make the game a lot more interesting, I think. And of course, then you have the, hedge maze out in the backyard where he froze to death and all that. You could have that in there and everything. I mean, there's a lot of places that map, specific map, could go and do, right? So that would be a really cool one. And then just a few honorable mentions as far as killers that I think would be interesting to see in Dead by Daylight. I mean, you could have the Fly from the movie The Fly, right? So I mean, that would be interesting because it's a rare occurrence where you can have two characters who projectile vomit in the. Yeah, thanks. Chat you later, Nova. So that would be one of the rare occurrences where you can have a killer who projectile vomits, but just like the plague, but the plague spreads disease and he sprays acid to melt people down. That would make for a hell of a Mori, actually, because that happened in the movie. So that would be an interesting character as well. Plus, he could walk up the walls theoretically, stick to the walls, etc. That would be awesome. Uh, and other than that, there's the elephant in the room kind of killers that I would think, like Alien and Predator. I mean, the Wraith already turns invisible and sneaks up and hits people. The Predator would be basically the same thing. The only difference is he has a shoulder cannon and several long range weapons. So, I mean, that's pretty wide open. It's pretty. I don't know. The thing is, like, how would you make it interesting? I don't know. He'd just be cool to have, I suppose. And then likewise the Alien, from the Alien franchise. That would be a really interesting killer. He would definitely have to be able to walk up the walls and over barricades and everything else like they can in the movie, because I think that would just have to be his special ability. And that would be really awesome, actually, if they're running through the second floor of a building and you just run up the wall and go through the window and into the room that they're running into. That would be really cool. That would definitely put pressure on, because people would not know where to run because they're not exactly sure which direction you're taking to get to where they're going. Uh, that would be a lot. That would be pretty cool. Um, Overall, it's just the Alien though, so I mean, whatever. I think you could do a lot of fun things with it. And of course, from the Fly, the Alien, and the Predator franchise, that brings way to a lot of different survivors who would be, fit in very well. Uh, yeah. So that's the characters and killers I would love to see, yeah, added to the game from franchises that exist, as well as the original ideas that I gave you earlier, such as the doppelganger, etc. Um, so the next thing I would look at tweaking. Overall, I find that the game kind of stagnates in the sense that everybody plays very similar characters. To give you an example of what I'm trying to talk about here, I can log into a lobby either as a killer or as a survivor, and chances are there's a Fang Min, there's a Michaela, there's a Meg, there's a Dwight, like any one of those combination or all of the above simultaneously. Uh, I'm sure you can all do the same thing. Like Fang Min is probably one of the most predominant characters in the thing. Same with Michaela. So. Um, the way I would counter that is just in order to mix up the variety of characters you see in the game. Um, I would give every survivor and every killer an individual personal trait, not a perk, a trait or ability, if you want to call it that. And basically, what it would come down to is, what do you think? Like, for example, I'll give you an example to begin with. Jill from Resident Evil and Chris Redfield from the original Resident Evil. Jill had a lockpick, and she could use that. She could pick locks on doors. She could pick locks on cupboards and things to get items out that Chris had to find keys for. So if you gave Jill in Dead by Daylight a lockpick, none of the other characters can have it. It's exclusive specifically to her. So if you want the lockpick, you have to play as Jill. And she can still have 4 perks and everything else, and you mix and match the perks like you always did. But if you want the lockpick, you have to play Jill. And what the lockpick can do is much what it does in the game. You could go and you could pick it. You could pick any survivor can open a chest in the game, right? So it's like, well, what good does that do? Well, what if Jill walks up and she just clicks it open because she has a freaking lockpick? No timer at all. She just click, chest is open. That's it. That can actually be a very big thing. I've actually played against a lot of people lately who have been spawning additional chests into the match. There was even one Swift I went up against, and they burned 2 add-ons to add extra chests. That was 4 extra chests. Now, if they had a Jill in the group who could pop each of those chests instantaneously for their little nefarious purposes of gen rushing and fixing and getting extra items, that's a fairly significant. That could be a fairly significant boost. You could also further it by saying maybe if the killer closes the hatch, Jill can pick the lock on the hatch without having to have the key, because the key is an item add-on that survivors need to have in order to open the hatch after it's closed. Well, what if Jill can use her lockpick to reopen the hatch that the killer has shut? That would actually be a really, really big endgame survival thing for a character. There's been countless times that I've been chased by a killer and I've been hiding in the bush and they get really close to me, and then 2 seconds later, poof, they slam the hatch because I just couldn't get to it. But it's like, damn, like, maybe if I had the lockpick, that wouldn't have been a problem, right? So that's the sort of thing. Give every character, every survivor in the game, and killer, their own individual perk, or not perk, sorry, that's not the word you want to use, because there's already perks, but their own trait or ability. And Jill's would be the lockpick. And then Chris, likewise, like I said, he was in the original Resident Evil. Jill got the lockpick, but Chris could carry more items. So maybe what Chris can do, rather than giving him 2 toolkits or 2 med kits or a med kit and a flashlight, as much as people would love to exploit that, maybe just double the effectiveness of the item he's holding. Not the add-ons that go with the item, just the item itself. So if he has a flashlight, let's say that lasts for 8 seconds or something, it'll last 16 seconds because he's holding it. Then you could put the additional add-ons as well and boost it further than that. But that's it. So if you're using a flashlight and you drop it on the ground and it only has 2 seconds left, he could pick it up and he could use it for 4 seconds. If he picks it up and there's no charge left, well, there's still nothing left. But that's the sort of thing you could do just to boost each character and give them something very useful, right? Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Those are basically the examples I've got to go with here. And I would suggest, do that with all the characters. Give every character in the game their own unique ability. And by doing so, you give some really interesting abilities to the characters that never get used. You're going to see a lot more of these other characters pop up, because then it won't be the same recycled stuff. Because even if the perks all remain the same, as they usually do, at least the characters might be different. So that's just the way I thought that you could spice it up and see a lot of the new characters. I'm trying to think of characters I don't really see a whole lot of. I would say probably... what the hell is... I'm terrible with the survivors' names. As I very rarely see Zarina. Elodie. I don't see a lot of her. Quentin, I don't see a lot of Quentins. So, like I said, just pop an individual trait into them. Nothing necessarily as good as a perk, but, something worth giving them giving them more attention so people want to play them more. That's it. And it's the same with the killers, you know. Maybe people don't want to play as, I don't know, freaking Hag, but if she has this one perk where, or this one, I'm breaking my own rule. Don't call it a perk. If she has her own little ability, that's only hers, that you can only use and to your advantage when you're playing as the Hag, it could be a game changer for some people, So there's that. Yeah. Okay, so that's just a general improvement for survivors, which I think would make, and killers, which I think would make the game more entertaining overall for all of them. My next batch of stuff we're getting into here would be improvements to some of the killers, just to make them better functioning. You probably have heard people talk about a lot of these, so let's just get into it. The first one would be Nemesis is, if you play Nemesis the Killer, and he has the 2 zombies, right? Well, we need to improve the zombies. And I've discussed this with people before. So here's what I would say we do with the zombies to make his zombies much more fun. Well, for the killer anyway. So basically, what happens is the zombies act as roaming hooks. Now, you might say, well, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Well, think about this. Pyramid Head, the executioner, if he downs you after you've walked through the Trail of Torment, he can send you to the Cage of Atonement, which is basically like hooking you, but he doesn't have to hook you. He just stabs you and you disappear, and you're sent to the Cage of Atonement, which is literally a hook state. And this would be a similar idea. So what happens is the zombies are running around on the map just like they always do. And if the zombies hit a character who is injured, then rather than downing them or just straight up infecting them, they could still infect them with the virus and force you to cure it if you want. But if the zombies hit a character who is injured, that character goes down like they normally would, but the zombie jumps on top of them and is fighting with them, basically trying to eat them, because that's what the zombies do. They don't just casually bitch slap people who are walking by and leave it at that, right? And in this game, as it is now, they slap you, you hit the ground, and they just walk away, and they're like, yeah, my job's done. But that's stupid. Play Resident Evil. The zombies will freaking eat you alive, okay? And if you have the zombie on you, immediately it's like being hooked. Only difference is you didn't have to go anywhere. You didn't have to be taken to a hook. So you're on the ground, the zombie is struggling with you, and let's say you haven't been hooked once yet. So your little meter goes up exactly like if you're on a hook, and it goes at the exact same rate. When you get halfway down, which is your second hook state, basically the same thing. Now you have to do skill checks because the zombie's, even more aggressive now. And, you have to beat your skill checks. Now, if one of your survivor friends comes along, they can pull the zombie off you. Same as just pulling you off a hook. They hold the button down, same amount of time, they kick the zombie in the head and kill it, or just whatever the hell. The zombie's dead, you're safe. The zombie will respawn again like they normally do, but this zombie for now is dead. That gets you free. They have to pick you up the same way they do off the ground if you were injured, whatever, etc., etc. Okay? You get up, and then and actually I would probably sweeten it a bit because the zombie was on you, and the unhooking, you're put into the standing stage, you're not put in the dying stage, so to speak. So what I would have is when they pull the zombie off of you, they also just grab you by the hand and pull you to your feet so that you don't have to do the healing on the ground thing first, because let's keep it fair, right? So at any rate, they save you, the zombie's dead, you're fine. However, if we rewind it back to the part where the zombie is still fighting with you, if you do not get saved by your friend and the hook state goes all the way to the, basically the hook state, the zombie struggle goes to the point where you would die, the zombie kills you and eats you. And if they kill you and eat you, 20 seconds later, your body reanimates as another zombie. And now there's 3 zombies on the map. So that sucks. But let's sweeten the deal even more. Not only that, let's say the one zombie is on you. The second that one zombie is on you and the second zombie is on the map right now, the second zombie is alerted, because if you watch any of the zombie movies, it's always like that. The zombies always just seem to know where somebody is. So in this case, the zombie is struggling with someone. Wherever the other zombie is on the map, it immediately takes the fastest route it can to the struggling survivor with the other zombie and gets in on the action. Now you've got 2 zombies on you. And yeah, that means your little meter for your hook state goes twice as fast. Yes, twice as fast, because there's 2 of them, and they're gonna kill you twice as fast. So now you got the 2 zombies on you. Your friend doesn't make it there in time. They kill you. They eat you. Maybe they get there and they see your body being eaten by the zombies. So they're like, well, that sucks. Okay, let's go somewhere else. And then they run away. That's all they can do. So now your body's up. Now there's 3 zombies on the map. Okay? Ooh, 3 zombies. So the zombies at this point will actually horde together. Normally the zombies just kind of go wherever they want, but at this point, we'll have the zombies meet up and stay together in a group of 3. And one of the main reasons being is if you play Resident Evil, the zombies will horde together and they will kill you all together. So now imagine that all 3 zombies get a hold of you. And yes, if they get a hold of you and down you, then it's 3 times the speed on your hook state. Don't get caught by 3 freaking zombies. You get caught by a zombie in Resident Evil twice and they'll rip your throat out. There's no like, oh, well, I could fight this. No, you die, okay? The zombies in Resident Evil are very dangerous. That's the point. So you get these 3 zombies on you, and yeah, they'll strip you down really fast. It also adds a new dangerous element to the game. I mean, imagine, sure, if you're in somewhere like, Coldwind Farm and you're in a wide open field and you look and you see the 3 of them coming, it's like, well, you have a really wide area to just escape and run. Pick a direction, not where they are, and you're probably good, as long as the killer doesn't find you at the same time, right? So here's the thing. If you're in a place like RPD, however, and you're in a narrow hallway, and Nemesis chases you into a corridor, and then at the other end you see those 3 zombies coming, well, now your life just started sucking a whole lot more. It's either get punched in the face by Nemesis and maybe run past him back the way you came, or get eaten by the 3 zombies. What are you going to do, right? And Nemesis, he'll see the 3 zombies. He's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to knock you on your ass and let them have you. So it's like, okay, so now you got that to worry about. However, you can still kill the zombies and stun them the same way you always did. And if they're together in a group and you flashlight blind them, you hit the whole lot of them at once. It's only fair. You got to give something to the survivors too, because I can guarantee you the survivor mains who enjoy playing Nemesis right now are probably like, this is an awesome idea. I freaking love this. And the survivors are like, you're a fucking asshole and you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. Go die. Okay? You got to give something to the survivors too. There's got to be balance. So flashlight stuns still work. You drop a pallet on them, they're still killed by it. However, they will still respawn. So even if you drop the pallet and you kill like two or 3 zombies with 1 hit, those 3 zombies are going to respawn again together at another hook somewhere. You want to keep the zombie horde thing happening. And that would change up the dynamic of the game quite a bit, because I actually had a match recently where I was chasing a Rebecca in the RPD actually, and that one office with the hole in the roof. And she vaulted in the corner and she went in there, and the zombie was coming into the room actually. And the zombie came from the other way, and I kind of kept her in there because I knew the zombie was going to go in the room after her. So I just sort of kept her in that room. And as soon as the zombie got in the doorway, I went and I stood in the vault location, and she had no way out. She either had to come through me and get punched and probably taken out because I was going to punch her in the face as she was climbing over and then get her again a few seconds later, or she could stand there and take the zombie. She was literally panicked, running back and forth between the zombie, and the zombie was taking swings trying to get her, and she'd come to the window and I'd swing at her and she'd run back and forth until finally the zombie caught her, and then, that was it. But imagine that now, like, you vault to go down a hole or something to get away, and you land in the midst of 5 zombies. And I say 5 because potentially that's how many you could have, right? You would have the 2 zombies that start on the match with Nemesis, and if they killed 3 survivors, that's 5 zombies altogether that you would have, and the last survivor would have to face off against Nemesis and avoid this mob of zombies that could literally kill you 5 times as quick as any hook. And that would be really scary for anybody. And think of it this way too. If the zombies get you, and they would kill you really quickly. I mean, it's 2 minutes for 2 hook states as it is. And if you did 5 times the speed, the reduction speed on that, like, that's going to go really quickly, okay? You're going to die really fast. And you could have a really amazing Mori with the 5 zombies literally eating a survivor alive. And it would be like it would only happen if you have all 5 of the zombies. That would be really cool. So that would be awesome. And that would make the zombies an actual threat. You would actually find yourself considering whether or not you need to kill the zombie that's following you or the zombies that are following you, because in the end, is it worth it to not drop that pallet? Because dropping the pallet alerts Nemesis where you are because he hears the pallet drop. But you're killing the zombies that are chasing you and at least keeping yourself safer for the time being, right? Most of the times now when I'm on a generator and someone else is with me and the zombie comes running up, I or she literally just stand up. When we go stand, the zombie starts following, and I just take 3 steps, zombie keeps following. I take 3 steps, zombie keeps following, and the person's just free to fix the freaking generator. People should never be that comfortable. When we see a zombie approaching in Resident Evil, unless you've got a freaking minigun, you're probably a little concerned. And it should be that way in this game as well. You should be afraid of the zombies that Nemesis has. And you're not. And this would make people very afraid of the zombies. So, again, my opinions. Let me know what you think of those. But I would love to see that, and I think that would be really cool. So, going over the notes here. Yeah, zombies horde together. Last survivor triggers a 5-person zombie Mori. That would be pretty awesome. Alright, next character. Demogorgon, actually. Having actually seen the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things now, so I know who the Demogorgon actually is, rather than just, he's that character from the Stranger Things DLC. And now that I own the Demogorgon, and I've been playing the Demogorgon, I can actually say that, hey, there's a few things that you could improve with him that would make it a lot more, a little more entertaining, right? So what I would do is I would change, I wouldn't change, but I would add. So Demogorgon as it is now, he can create his little portals to the Upside Down. He creates a portal in one place, he can walk anywhere else on the map, create another portal, and then he can traverse between all the portals that he creates. And that's all fine, that works, decently enough, but it's kind of not enough. In this TV series, he kidnapped people to the Upside Down. So he took them with him. So what I suggest would be much better is, much like Freddy Krueger has his little blood, his little blood pools that he can use, dream snares, or the dream pallets. He has 2 different techniques that he can use, right? What I would do is I would give the Demogorgon the choice of either using the portals to traverse the way he already does, or I would give him a second ability, which is to kidnap a player into the Upside Down. And this is what would happen. He would down the survivor, he would open the portal, and then basically just open the portal like over top of them. It would be kind of like doing a Mori, but it doesn't kill them. So what happens is you do this, the action on the survivor, and you see the portal open up and the person gets sucked in, or he shoves them in, however the hell you want to do it. And basically, they fall into the map exactly in the spot they're in, because that's what the way the Upside Down worked. If you were in the Upside Down in one place, you were still in that position in reality, in the real world. And so basically what happens now is you're in the Upside Down. I would add an overlay to the screen that changes it up. That way you can avoid having to build an entire second map that the person is on. You still are actually on the map in the game that all the other survivors are in. You just literally cannot see them. They're invisible to you and you are invisible to them. And you can't interact with generators or anything like that. But what happens is, because you're in the Upside Down, just like in the series, you have to find your way out. And this makes it a very interesting mechanic, because it's similar to a hook, but you're not hooked. So you're not necessarily losing a hook state, but you're trapped in a place where you can't do anything to help anybody. So you have to get the hell out of the Upside Down. So somewhere in the map is the portal, because that was what it was like when they got lost in the Upside Down. They had to find the doorway and crawl out. They crawled out through a tree or something, as I seem to remember in the first season. So it was like, find the exit. That's what you do. The map is exactly the same as the one you're in. You can't interact with the survivors because you can't see them. You can't touch the generators. You have to just find your way back to the regular map. So you have to find the portal, you crawl through it, and it's just the same as when you rip a portal up. When the Demogorgon has it, you hold the button and you start pulling the parts out. Same thing. You get to the portal, you find the exit, you hold the trigger down, the little meter goes up, and that's you burrowing yourself into the portal, and then you pop back into the regular map in that location. Whatever the location of the portal was, that's where you come out. Now, maybe you come out beside a generator and your friends are there. Maybe you come out beside the generator and your friends are there, and the Demogorgon's there and sees you coming out of the ground. It's like, hey, free shots. You don't know until you do it. The only other stipulation I would have, because when you're in the Upside Down, the Demogorgon would be there hunting you. And hear me out on this. While you're in the Upside Down, because, the Demogorgon sent you there. And much like when the Executioner sends someone to the Cage of Atonement, they are teleported across the map. The Executioner doesn't know where the Cage of Atonement is, but the survivors do. So what I would do is, if the Demogorgon sends a person to the Upside Down, they can actually then make a portal, go into the Upside Down, and try to hunt that survivor by themselves. Now remember, the map still is fully functional. It just looks different now because you're in the Upside Down, so everything is like covered in shit and whatever. And again, like I said, don't program an entire new level. Just add like an overlay or something to the thing, just to change up the appearance of everything, to save yourself on computing, right? Anyway, the Demogorgon can now hunt you and Mori you without having to do anything. It's like Myers. Myers can, and people might say this is ridiculous. Well, I think it's ridiculous. Myers can just walk up to someone and stab them to death a minute into the game. That's what happened to me. That's why I hate Myers, okay? And if Myers can do that and that is acceptable, then what I'm saying is not unacceptable on any level. So, if he gets you into the Upside Down and then he goes through a portal, again, he doesn't know where you are once you're in there because you're going to appear at a random spot per se. Or maybe he appears at a random spot, more like it. And he has to find you and hunt you down. And he has a good idea of where you went through because he sent you through the Upside Down. So he's like, okay, well, you're over there on the map. That's where I put you through. I'm going to head in that direction and start looking there. Okay, all rules still apply. He can find you, he can kill you, and that's that. But the trade-off, and this is where the survivors who are probably rolling their eyes saying this is insane. Remember, the Demogorgon is in the Upside Down with your friend. He's not on the map with you. You are literally on a map with no killer. You can gen rush like there is no tomorrow until that Demogorgon comes back. There's nothing to stop you. That's the trade-off. He's got you in the Upside Down. He can kill you, and he can only put one person in the Upside Down at a time. So He's got you in the upside down. He can kill you if he finds you, and then he can leave and he can go back about his business. But you're damn right. If I'm in a party chat with all my friends and I get kidnapped to the upside down, I'm going to be yelling at them, "Rush your gens, he's after me. I'm in the upside down, he's here with me, there's nobody there. Get every gen done." All 3 of your survivor friends could be on one generator. It takes 90 seconds to do a generator, by yourself, right? Well, divide that by 3 because you have 3 people on every generator. It's going to be like boom, boom, boom. And that's the trade-off the Demogorgon has to consider. I could go in there and I could probably find this person and kill them really quickly, but do I want to sacrifice God knows how many gens in the regular map, right? So that's kind of a trade-off. That's a serious question. I mean, it's like I said, I've been playing Demogorgon now for the first time, and that is a serious question I would have to ask myself. It would be cool to be hunting one person in the upside down who can't really do anything if I get a hold of them. They just die. But at the same time, if it takes me 30, 40 seconds or a minute to find them, that's a lot of time that the survivors up above ground have to get a lot done. And that could be devastating to a killer's game. So you really have to balance, you really have to think about that, right? So that's what I would have added to the Demogorgon. The ability to choose whether or not you can take the survivor to the upside down. That way, just because you're facing the Demogorgon, you don't know for sure you're going to go to the upside down. You might be facing the one who's using just the portal traversal. The iridescent add-ons for Demogorgon is basically free barbecue and chili when you use the freaking the lichen. That's what the add-on is. It's the lichen, and if you traverse the portals, you see the auras of all the survivors on the map. And for 6 seconds after you come out of the portal, it's literally free It's better than barbecue and chili, and that's really good. That's not something a lot of people, if they have the add-ons especially, would be willing to part with just for the possibility of mooring somebody in the upside down, right? So it would balance out, I think, because not everybody would take that opportunity. It's a pretty risky one for all parties. So that's why I think it would be interesting to see implemented. Yeah. On top of that, yeah, so there's that. There was something else I was thinking of, which at the moment has kind of got me bothered. Oh, I was also thinking about flashlights with the demo, because light obviously affects the demo. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, light. Just add-ons for the lore related into the upside down and the Demogorgon as well. In the series, people who are in the upside down, as I said, if you're in the upside down, like if I was in the upside down version of this room, I would still be occupying the same space as I am as I would be in the real world. I would just be in the upside down version of it. So while I can't interact with anything around me, it flickered the lights when somebody was in the upside down and they would walk through the room. So if somebody walked through this room in the upside down, my lights would flicker as they went around the room close to the lights. And that is something you could implement into the game too, just as a cool thing. Imagine if you're fixing the generator and the light starts flickering because either the Demogorgon is in the upside down chasing, or your friend is there and your friend is walking through the area, so the lights are flickering, and you'd be like, hey, I think Tickbite was just walking by. She got kidnapped to the upside down. That must have been her. And then, it'd be the same for the Demogorgon. So it's like, or it's the Demogorgon moving through this room. That would just be something that I think would be really cool to see. Especially if you're fixing the generators, because like I said, the lights flicker when the Demogorgon showed up. So the Demogorgon could be like coming towards the room or whatever, and then your lights would go out or something. You'd be like, and you're in the middle of fixing the generator, but the lights go, you're like, oh crap, he's like right here. That would just be, again, interesting, just the little things that you could add to the game that would really make things a little more interesting and entertaining. And they're all friendly to the lore. That's the especially cool part about it. This is all from the series. This is all true to the characters and what have you. So those would be some really awesome things that I would like to see. All right. So that's my discussion on what I would do with the characters, how I would change things up. Now, what I would like to discuss is potentially new game modes. Anybody who's been playing Dead by Daylight, I've been playing it for just under a year now, and yeah, it's kind of a drag to go in and either be fixing generators or just hooking 4 people twice, 3 times, whatever, you know? It's kind of like, it sucks. You don't want to do it, right? So, what else can we do to make the game entertaining? One of the games I used to play quite a bit and still would if my Xbox was working is Left 4 Dead 2. And Left 4 Dead was pretty much the same thing, killers versus infected, same maps, everything, and they finally started adding new game modes. And Follow the Leader, or whatever it was I think that's what it was called, was one of them where you had to just gas up the generator, to win, and before you get killed by the zombies. So these are the sorts of things you want to sort of look for to add to Dead by Daylight. Not that specific gameplay mechanic, but I was thinking something like, why not something where you're kind of taking the fight to the killer, like a banishment? So we have multiple spirits. We have the spirit, we have the Onryo, we have Wraith, you have the nurse, you have the Oni, etc., etc. Why can't you have like an exorcism match where you're trying to do specific tasks to exorcise the killer and like destroy them? That would be a really interesting game mode, right? It would definitely mix things up. It would be different than fixing freaking 5 generators and escaping. So what you would have to do is just go around and maybe, first of all, I would make it try to make it a rule where you have to do the banishment mode for that specific character on their map. And what I mean is, like, if you're going up against the spirit, you have to be at the Yamaoka estate because that was her map. Same with the Oni, that was like his map too, because they're like related. And then like the nurse, I think Crotus Pen Asylum was her map, right? Something like that. So you have to be at their specific character map in order to play this mode of gameplay with them. So while you could be going into the banishment match, you don't know what killer, just like you normally wouldn't. And really, the only telltale sign you would have is the map that you go to, and you'd be like, okay, we're at Yamaoka. It's either the Oni or the spirit we're trying to get rid of here. So that would kind of give you a hint as to the killer you're playing against. And then on top of that, it's going to test you against your map knowledge as well as outmaneuvering the killer, who's obviously doesn't want to be banished. And then if in some cases, like Sadako, the ring, she doesn't have a map. In this circumstance, make a map. There's no reason that she shouldn't have a map. Okay, you could do the house that they were in. You could, I have never seen Ringu. I've seen The Ring, which is the Western version. So, like, you could have the farm with the horses where she was thrown down the well. Imagine a freaking map where you're trying to banish, Samara, as it would be, and the well is actually on the map, in the middle of the map, and she can freaking come out of there like the TV, right? That would actually be really cool. Imagine you're like, we got to get over the well, and then you see her crawling out of the well. You go, oh shit, run the other way. I mean, these are just cool ideas, right? But you would have to gather different tokens, maybe, or artifacts belonging to the killer. Like for Sadako, it would be the videotape, maybe, and maybe some like teeth from a horse or something, because she was angry that her father loved the horses more than her. Crap like that. You have to find a bunch of artifacts and you have to do some kind of a ritual or something to destroy the spirit, And I think that would be an interesting way to do the gameplay. Plus, it would give the survivors finally a chance to, do away with the killer. Meanwhile, the killer is obviously just trying to kill them. And it's like, well, that's changing up gameplay for the survivors, but it's not really changing it up for the killer. then you just have to make up don't just, it's not about the hooks anymore. Have something else for the killer. Maybe Samara, or I call her Samara because again, I watched The Ring. Sadako has to drag them to the well and throw them down the well. Something like that. Whatever, right? Give the killers a new purpose too. I mean, ultimately, the killer just wants to kill everybody. That's kind of the point. So, but give the survivors some new things to do, and the killers will have to adapt their gameplay as well, because it's like, well, I could face camp this mofo right here, but I'll get dead for face camping them because the others got all the artifacts and they're going to perform the ritual now. So it's like, get your ass off the hook, or away from the hook, and get after everybody else. That eliminates face camping right there, unless they really want to lose. I guess that's an alternative, right? But yeah, that's what you want to do, right? That would mix things up. That would be entertaining. That's just a random idea. But yeah, new gameplay modes. So you get something like that in there, and you get banishment or anything to defeat the killer, right? So that's just an idea for one gameplay mechanic. I don't really have any more outside of that one. That was just the one example I could come up with. But like I said, I encourage other people to think of new ones as well and throw them out there. Get them around. Because here's the thing. It doesn't hurt to come up with these ideas and throw them all around. Hey, you know what? If Behavior for any reason saw this video and they liked any one of my ideas, they absolutely literally could take it and use it. I wouldn't care, because in the end, it's expanding the game. Expanding the game is a good thing. The more expansion there is, the longer the life we get out of the game, the more fun we can get out of the game. And that's a win for everybody. I want the game, there's games that I've played that, for example, I've talked a lot about Resident Evil. I love the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I can go back and I can play it. I know where every zombie is. I know where every creature is, because that never changes. And if it did, that would be amazing. Then you could play the game as many times as you want, because you wouldn't necessarily know where the freaking zombies are. And that would be a great thing to have happen. Because again, it creates, variety, and it makes the experience not so much new in the sense that, the end goal wouldn't be the same, but the dangers would be different every time. And that's always going to be a good thing to expand on and change, right? Sorry, I gotta stretch. Posture check, as people say in other streams. Oof. There we go. That's better. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would do with that. Let me just scooch this forward a bit. While I sit further back in my chair here. But yeah, that is what I would do with that. Just expand the game, because everything we can all do to just use our imaginations and come up with ways that would expand the game, further the game, it's always good. Even if nothing comes of it, it just shows that we want more out of something we love, and that's not a bad thing. And like I said, all it takes is, Behavior to see one thing and be like, you know what, that is actually a pretty good idea. We should do it. Who loses in that sense? Nobody. Whatever keeps the game going, I'm all for it. Now, next little chat. This revolves a lot again around the discussion of fear from earlier. Ways to improve the game, little nooks and crannies and things that in ways you could tweak the game just to make the what do you want to say? Just to get more value out of what we already have. An example would be the basement hooks. I was thinking, what would be really interesting is, what if when we went into the basement, it was dark? Because it's underground, right? And there's no lights in there. If you really look around the basement, it's weird. There's like cracks in the boards and like light is coming through, but we're underground, so where the hell's the light coming from? But, you have to be able to see in the basement, I guess, which makes sense. But here's my suggestion. What if when you go down the stairs, the first set of stairs, and you look to the left, and there's the shorter stairs before you actually get in the basement. What if when you get to that first little thing and you turn to your left, what if you see that it's black, like really dark? Not pitch black, because you have to be able to, obviously you have to be able to see. You can't be completely blind. But what if it was like darkness, like when the dredge has his darkness, the darkness falls, and you're practically blind as a survivor, but the dredge can see really good. Okay, have the basement be that. Be dark, but you can still kind of see around you. Maybe, just enough that you can see a few feet ahead of you, but that's it. And it should affect the killer the same way, unless maybe you're the dredge, and that could be a thing for him, because he sees perfectly fine in Nightfall. So if the basement is like Nightfall, well, the dredge is the one killer who can just see in the basement regardless. That would be an interesting little thing for him. But anyways, so you're in the basement and it's dark, you can't see anything, and maybe your friend got hooked down there, which is why you went down there. But you can now use the flashlight. Again, secondary use for the flashlight. And you can light up the basement so you can see better. That would be very handy. It gives a secondary function to an item that's already in the game that nobody would think to use it for now, because you don't need to. But it also puts a survivor in the position, like, I like my flashlight saves. I like my, flashing. I like vaulting my pallets and blinding the killer afterwards. Do I want to go in the basement and run the risk of having to use my flashlight to see in the dark to save somebody who's on a hook? If and like, the thing with me, I dread going into the basement to get people off hooks. I have friends who can loop killers like nothing. They just go down and it's like, yeah, the killer's like right outside or in the basement. They just don't care. They just go down, they get the people out. I don't know how the hell they do it, but they do it. I can't do that. So if I have to go into the basement, I'm very apprehensive about it. And if I have to go into the basement and now it's pitch black and I can't freaking see more than 3 feet in front of me, I'm going to be even more scared now, because I have to seriously question, do I want to go down in there? And then here's another little tweak I would add to it. Stop putting the hooks, because there's always the 4 hooks in the basement. That's the way it is, right? That's the whole point. Break up the hooks. Change the shape of the we all know the layout of the basement. When you walk down the stairs, you hang a left, you go down 3 more stairs, you hang another left, there's the hooks. Person is probably on the back hook, so you know about how far that is. You can just pull them off and run. You know the layout. Yeah, they just tweaked it and they expanded it. They made it bigger. But the point of everything is also that despite the fact that they made the place bigger, the layout is all basically exactly the same, and the hooks they've moved it like a little further back, but not really. So what I would say is, break up the hooks. Put the hooks on the walls, right? Have a hook in each corner, right? There's basically no reason not to do that in the basement. Have a hook on a wall, put all 4 hooks on one wall. Have the basement have multiple layouts. So when you're going into the basement, you don't know what the hell you're expecting. It could be so different every time you go down there. And the fact that it's dark, you're going to have to explore around a bit. You might see the one hook glowing yellow that your friend is on, but at the same time, you don't know where the other hooks are. You don't know where the corners are. And if there's an insidious camping huntress down there, you're definitely not going to know where the hell she is until you shine the flashlight on her in the corner and you see a hatchet coming at your head. That would freak people out. Just imagine the foobar situation where you go to get somebody off the hook in the corner, and because it happens. I've been killer plenty of times where I hook someone in the basement and all 3 of them mofos come down into the basement, and there's this clusterfuck situation where you're just swinging left and right and people are taking hits and people are getting off and maybe someone else gets down and they go on the hook and then they're swapping. Like, it just goes crazy. Now imagine that in the dark, okay? And the huntress, sure, she's insidious camping and she lured your ass down there, but now that you're there and you're not shining the flashlight, she can't see necessarily any better than you can. So she's swinging around in the dark. Everybody's freaking the hell out. Nobody knows who's safe and who isn't. Like, it would just be like, holy crap. Like, you want to talk about a high anxiety situation? That is how you do it. That is how you can create fear. And